Hey, beloved, it is 8 o'clock, right on time. Hey, I hope that day of yours has gone perfectly. Things have been real good for you, and that you're blessed, that you're ready to hear some things that you otherwise may not have known, to be enlightened. And at the end of all that we're talking about, that you will go out and vote. All right? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Jackie Jackson Ministries Urban Apologetics channel. Thank you so much for joining me right down here in the man cave, man. In the man cave. You can tell by some of the stuff that's behind me, but if you could see in this room, there are model cars and posters and stuff just everywhere and pictures and all kinds of things because this is what I'm into. But I am your host, and beyond everything else, I am your resident knowledge junkie, desiring to make you the absolute smartest person in the room as it pertains to these various subjects that we're going to be taking a look at, just over time. Now, I want to do my regular ad to let you know other ways that you can get in touch with the ministry. WCVG, 1320 AM and 103.9. I have been on the radio with them for heading towards 13 years and very, very excited about what continues to happen there. A variety of subjects, interviews, live when I'm speaking live somewhere, as well as right here, studio stuff. Urban Apologetics channel on YouTube. Some of you have signed on that way. There are actually seven different ways to connect. They're not all up here because there are 3 Facebook pages, but I am on the Jackie Jackson Facebook instead of Urban Apologetics. But anyway, with YouTube, please like and subscribe. I would love as many likes as I can possibly get. Always helps. Put the TikTok up separate because I want you to be able to see how to get there at Jackie Jackson 1195. Would love for you to, get with that and that's where the shorter hit it and get it videos are for you to look at and enjoy. All right, let's talk about tonight a little bit. I cannot do a complete recap. I like doing that because I want to make sure that you get all of the information that I have for you and that you're kind of up to speed so we can go to the next part. But I hope that you will watch Project 2025 #1, because tonight as I do this review, it's going to be super, super quick because I have a lot of good information I want to get to you tonight. And only way to do that is to kind of breeze through this part. So I really would encourage you to watch Project 2025 #1. Now, I have sent that out to some people. So, you may be watching this and you already have a copy of it. All right. So let's start off with some scripture so that we can lay a foundation. Let me say this so that I don't forget. Just remember, as I'm showing you these historical pieces, and then we'll be moving into some of the newer stuff, the idea is that you catch the pattern. Not that you remember all of the things that I say to you, but that you catch the pattern, right? That every time there is black progress, there is a negative white response birthed out of white fear. Now, that's not what God wants us, how he wants us to function. He wants us to work together, right? The cure for cancer could be in the ghetto, but ghettos were created for oppression by design. Talked about that last night with Rutherford B. Hayes and where all of that came from. So let's do some scripture. Let the Bible speak a little bit. Beyond all these things, put on love, right? Which is the perfect bond of unity. That's what God wants. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ richly dwell within you, with all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing with thanksgiving to God. Very important. That's what the Lord wants us to do, to walk together in harmony, to walk in love with one another. Bible tells us that we should guard our heart with all diligence. It also says, 1 John 3:15, used this one last night. Whosoever hated his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. So I have to be careful, right? Because I'm seeing these various atrocities that have happened through history. I'm seeing these patterns as I'm sharing with you tonight, and I have to guard my heart. You have to guard your heart. Somebody told me today they feel like, I need to go slap somebody. Well, I can understand that. I can understand, but sometimes I have to push away from the table when I see some of the things that have been done. But it is white fear that gets stoked. People do things that they should not do because their desire, whether they're claiming to be Christians or not, is not equality, but that fear that's put in them is that diversity. All of us coming together and walking in love and living together means chasing down the last white person. White genocide. It is not true. It's not even in the black man's nature to retaliate in that form. All right. Project 2025 was created by the Heritage Foundation. This is where I'm going to be going very, very fast so that I can get to this new material for you. Created by the Heritage Foundation. I still have some things to tell you about them and won't even get to some of it tonight. But Donald Trump says he doesn't have any idea who they are. But 31 of the 38 people that wrote it were nominated to positions in Donald Trump's administration or part of his transition team. Okay, let's go over what the basic thing that I shared with you last night that's in Project 2025. I encourage you, if you don't read anything else, I will repeat this at some point. Read chapter 18. If you don't read anything else, read chapter 18. Because there alone, you see racism, you see division, you see the goals that they're setting. I'm giving you way more information than chapter 18. This card is giving you more information than just chapter 18. But if you read that, it'll blow your socks off enough that you understand what you need to do to keep these things from happening. All right. Higher taxes for the working class. Why? Because he's going to give further tax breaks. They want to give further tax breaks to the wealthy. Well, that's who the Heritage Foundation is wealthy people. They're the ones that put the thing together. Raise the retirement age. Cut Social Security and Medicare. I mean, the haves and the have-nots, it'll be just absolutely devastating is probably the best word to use. End the Affordable Care Act. All right, so now we got to go back to dealing with pre-existing conditions and all that kind of end it. With all of these people that have been able to be covered because of that. Eliminate the Department of Education. We'll talk about that again in a second. End free discounted school lunch programs. I talked about that last night. It's ridiculous. Makes no sense at all. Who benefits from that? Ban African American and gender studies in all levels of education. Now, depending on, African American studies, yeah, you may have some issues with gender studies, which are not being taught in school. That's a lie. That's not what critical race theory even is. They've taken that name, and I got to talk about that next week, but they're taking that name and they're putting other things in there, just like they have just bastardized the word woke, which was stated by a black man, meaning I'm paying attention to what's going on around me, right? It just taking stuff and turning it into something else, making DEI sound like it's this privilege that other people get. And that's not what diversity and inclusion is. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. Condemn single mothers while promoting traditional families. You cannot legislate morality. Make it more expensive to buy a home by increasing mortgage insurance premiums. Institute a new tax on health insurance. Repeal protections for Americans with pre-existing conditions. Eliminate unions. Just get rid of that stuff. Right? Eliminate unions. End civil rights and DEI diversity. End it. And the protections where the government is involved in that. In that. Fill the courts up with right-wing judges. Ooh, boy, I don't know if that was a Freudian slip or just my tongue not wanting to work, but both are true. All right? Okay, let's move on. Let's take another look at something else that we talked about in our last time together. 1676, Bacon's Rebellion. Blacks and whites were together in this rebellion. It was stirred up for nefarious purposes, but nevertheless, they were together. It created white fear. That white fear said, okay, what do we do? How do we handle this? We can't have these people coming together, right? The aristocrats said we can't have that. So what did they do? They started, they gave the poor white man a few privileges to make him feel like he was just a little bit above the black man, and they increased the slave laws. There already had been slavery, but they increased the slave laws, and we got this off-the-chain stuff that that ended up being, chattel slavery. 13th Amendment, slaves are free. 14th Amendment, citizenship. 15th Amendment, the right to vote. But there was a clause that was put in there, because all this sounds good and all this sounds like great progress. But in the 13th Amendment, it was written, if you've been locked up for any reason, and this was the trick they were using, if you've been locked up for any reason, you're voting, can't do that, harder to get a job. But if you went to court, there was a court fee. Whether you were declared innocent or not, there's a court fee, and if you can't pay it, then they started something called peonage, which means you had to work that off, right? And there was just a lot of that going on. A foreman for a company would come into town, say, I need 25 people. The sheriff would arrest 25 for whatever trumped up charge he could arrest them for, and they would then have to go to, work some of them to death, not having committed any particular crime at all. This is because of all that was going on during the Reconstruction era, all the fear that was being created that there would be equality. In spite of all of that, I had a great conversation with someone about this today. In spite of all of that, 2 days ago, in spite of all of that, black people continued to make progress. I told you about the people, the numbers that went to Congress, at state level, at the federal level, the numbers, the achievements, once the right to vote was there, the number of ministers that were involved in this, the number of Christians, both black and white, that came into the South to teach. There's no telling what we could really, really accomplish as a nation if we would really just simply just walk together. Another piece I want to give you, and then we'll take a look at some resources real quick. This is Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells wrote against the lynching that we talked about a few days ago. And one of the things that she was pointing out and making clear is in many, many, many cases, they're not just lynching this guy that's walking down the street. No, the people that they were lynching, this black guy has a hardware store on one side of town, and a white guy has a hardware store on the other side of town. And they would come up with a reason, sometimes massacres, raping black women, all of that, just to get rid of his business so that this guy could have dominance. And this went on all the time. So she was pointing out that, this isn't just your average Joe. All right, some of the resources. I actually have some of these books here. I'm always putting this on the wrong side. Have some of these books here. So I don't want you to think that this is just, some stuff that, that I'm just talking about. But no, I own these. These are marked up. I used them in my doctoral dissertation. I didn't mention this book last night, The New Jim Crow. So I wanted you to see that. I actually had it over here, but didn't show it to you. That's a good companion book to go along with Slavery by Another Name. Okay, I know I'm not doing that right. If I had the full camera, I'd be better at it. Carter Godwin Woodson. This book, the Miseducation of the Negro, is really, really an awesome book. He is basically the father of Black History Month and some other things like that. All right, some more of them will come up in just a second. Let's move on. I want to, just in case you didn't see it last night or need to be reminded of the black towns, all black towns or freedom towns. There were a lot of them. Where are they now? Well, something had to happen. Black progress, negative white response. It's not me coming against white people. I'm a historian. That's what happened. That's what happened. Just want you to see them real quick. Texas, big explosion of black towns. All right, and I have this book as well. But something happened, and this is in no way a full list of the massacres that occurred. But when you're doing revisionist history, you get to tell a story any way you want to. When the people that you've done things to don't have the power to tell their own story, you get to tell the story any way you want to. And if you are in fear that things are not going to go the way that you want them to go, you just retell the story. It's like people don't even know 1884, the Berlin Conference, when these various countries decided to go down into Africa and colonize it. It was a concerted effort. But a lot of people don't know that. And with revisionist history, there's no way to know it. So as I said last night, Project 2025, the bit that I just showed you, not even, was a fuller explanation, which wasn't the fullest explanation that could be given of accomplishments during the Reconstruction era that you haven't heard about, but Project 2025 wants to get rid of the Department of Education. They want it to be non-existent. So they can tell you what history they want you to know and the way that they want to tell you. And they're ready. Listen, they have been working on this for 4 years. In Trump's first administration, they did not have the ability to implement some of these ideas, although they weren't new ideas. Again, the Heritage Foundation has been around since 1973. But they've been planning this for 4 years, putting this together for 4 years. And the reason they're saying what should be the quiet part out loud is because they're desperate. And I will show you what that desperation looks like. All right. Now, I just went over this list, so I'm not going to do it again. I just wanted on camera. There's a couple of things. I mean, Trump said if he wins this election, you will never have to vote again. He is being set up as a king. The consolidation of power in the Oval Office. He's going to be a dictator on day one. He won't need the Congress and the Senate to approve things. Everything goes through him. That is the way they have designed this. And we have to vote to make sure that this doesn't just happen to us. Are you with me? All right, moving on to the new stuff now. What Project 2025 is proposing in terms of, first, law enforcement. All right, now I have other videos that are on YouTube that give a greater explanation of what I'm trying to show you. I just want you to see the pattern. Okay? You can go to YouTube and you can look up the word impunity and you can find more information. Okay. The slave patrols during the time of slavery, the slave patrols were designed to catch anybody that ran away. That's why there are a lot of black people that today get shot in the back. Because black people you're not allowed to run. And now there are laws that protect that whole idea of somebody running from the police. Qualified immunity. Now, it has been challenged more lately, but this is it. Listen, I don't quote me on this because I don't know if it's 52 or 57, but there is a stat that every 52 hours, there is a black man is either abused or killed by the police who is unarmed. But they get away with it. One of the reasons that they get away with it is the law says that they can. Court decided, Illinois versus Wardlow, that if a person in a high crime neighborhood runs in an unprovoked flight from a police officer, then reasonable suspicion has been met. And the officer has a right to stop and frisk. But there's more to it than that. Because there is a law in 2015 that basically allows the officer to shoot that person if he declares that there is a threat. I don't know how you're a threat running away. I don't know how you're a threat if you don't have a gun on you, but it was put on the books. And can you imagine if Project 2025 goes into place, what it's going to look like? This cartoon is supposed to be funny, but it's really not. So, are you listening to me? Project 2025 wants to completely revamp the Justice Department. Two things. Listen closely. Two things. One, there are 50,000 employees around that work for the Department of Justice. They're talking about getting rid of every single one of them that is not loyal to 2025, to Project 2025. Now, they've already set up a website where people can start applying now. And there's loyalty things that are in there so that they can understand what your position is and determine from that whether or not they'll hire you. Hitler did the same kind of thing. He just didn't have the internet. See, there are people that think this can't happen. They're working. The people that wrote Project 2025, that set up the website, they are working diligently to make sure that it does. Putting judges and other people in the right places and all of that, not just the Supreme Court, but they are making sure that they've got a good shot on January 20th to start pulling this off. I hope you get the crux to that. It was a great migration because all of the need for jobs, yes, but because of the lynchings that were going on in the South, there were people that wanted to get out of the South to safety. It's a great book. Just the same person that wrote the book called Caste. I know it's going to be difficult to see this on camera. But Isabella Wilkerson, just an awesome read. Thank you, Uncle Larry, for introducing me to it. Beautiful stories, right? My own family is a part of that great migration during the period of time that, you see here. And here are the areas where they went to. an opportunity for black people to get into the middle class and factories, GM and Chrysler and all of that, and Ford, and getting jobs in the North as on assembly lines and things like that. But you had people like Mayor Daley in Chicago that was doing all kinds of racial things and allowing the police to do the things that some of the awful stuff I don't have time to even get into, that were, there's black progress, there's going to be a negative white response every single time. All through history. So let's start moving towards the new stuff. Again, I'm just trying to get you to catch this theme. 1964, the Civil Rights Act. Yeah. Because the 14th Amendment in the Constitution already said we were citizens in the 1800s after the Civil War. (1965), the Voting Rights Act. Why? Because in the 1800s, right after the Civil War, or specifically February 3rd, 1870, black people had the right to vote. So this is major progress. What's next? There's got to be, and there were plenty of them, negative responses. I'm just going to show you one major one that many of you that are watching this video are affected by today. Because as I said, every election has had to do with black folks. Every election in this country, you're either going to maintain slavery, you're going to abolish slavery, you're going to do it. These campaign speeches, they go from being negative and being clear that they don't like black folks and all of that, to then start using buzzwords like busing, law and order, and make America great again. But the response is going to be white fear. So here's a good example right in that period of time. Ronald Reagan, until the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, around that area, had been a Democrat. He goes Republican. That little blackface jockey that's on the side that we had used at times as a symbol of the Underground Railroad, he's sending a message as governor. He's sending a message to white folks that I got you. I got you. Come out, wave, or pictures taken or whatever. But that little subtle piece. Look up on YouTube the video by Lee Atwater. It's a very short video and it lasts about a minute. And you'll hear him explain, because he was a campaign manager, exactly what that strategy was. All the little subtle things that they said, exactly what the strategy was. All right, so here we go. Ronald Reagan. College, public college, was free across the nation before the Civil Rights Movement for just white people, not black people. Okay? So, in 1966, at University California Davis, UC Davis, wonderful school in California, a public school, and there were black people that were there protesting, saying, let us in, we want to be educated. The Civil Rights, 1964, Voting Rights, 1965, things are changing. So black people want to go to school. What do you think is going to happen? There's going to be a negative response. This particular response was done by Ronald Reagan. Catch this. As a result, the student death crisis ensued because Reagan said, if we can't prevent them from coming into the schools by law, we will start charging tuition so that black people can't afford it. Yeah. The Reaganomics, the person they're always heralding as, as this great, oh man, racist at his core. Student debt quadrupled between 2004 and 2019 to now a whopping $1.6 trillion. The average student debt from people graduating 2018 was $30,000, with an onset of 1 million new defaults on student loans each year. To sum it up, from 1964 to 2019, tuition costs soared 3,000, wrap your head around this, 819%, thanks to Ronald Reagan. Because of racism, because of not wanting black and white folks to go to school together, we have the student debt crisis that we have today. That's where it came from. It was birthed out of trying to keep black people from going to school. There's the article. You can look it up. It's still there. I check every once in a while. It's still there. Because I have probably about 4 more slides, I think, 4 or 5 more slides that explain it in more detail. But I think when you see 3,819%, and that's where the crisis came from, I think that's more than enough. And you can check the story out and you find out that that's very true. It's what happened. Because black people getting their education and reaching a higher level is a threat. So there's got to be a negative white response. Project 2025 is designed to get rid of the Department of Education and to take us backwards, instead of us working together to take us backwards. Again, read chapter 18, because this is where you'll find this information. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they want to disband it, to get rid of it. To get rid of it. So that you don't even have a department to go to complain about the wrong that's being done. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here, let me connect a couple things for you. First of all, to define diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is designed so that we can all work together. Hold on. I wasn't going to do this at this juncture, but I want to make sure that you can see my face. Because this is serious business. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, companies and colleges, I'll do the colleges second. It is designed so that you have people from different ethnic backgrounds, maybe even different cultures. The reason for the department is so that everybody understands each other so they can work together. It's not a DEI hire and all. I don't even know what that means. But if you say it enough, and you got a news channel that backs that up for you, then, it sounds legit because you keep saying it. But you're redefining what it means. It means so that we can understand each other to accomplish whatever the company is trying to accomplish. Whatever your role is in that company, you can do that because other people understand you. It's not bending over backwards for anybody. It is designed so that everybody understands other people that may be coming from some foreign nation. Or communicating with someone that's outside of the United States, having an understanding, a department that is designed to make sure that people understand each other. That's it. One of the reasons that some schools have created this department is because we have, this is just one example. It happens in other situations, people from other nations. Right? Pacific Island University that I teach for, that's in Guam. It's a different culture. My students that are from there, it's a different culture. When they do things, how they turn things in, there's some differences that are there. And you have to be aware of that, not to cut anybody any slack, but understand what the situation is. So you have students that will get a student loan, and within their first semester or first year, they drop out of college, not having gotten that degree, but now they owe that money. Why? Because the college didn't understand the culture that they came from to help set up the easiest way for them to be successful. Do you understand what I'm saying? They want to get, Project 2025 wants to get rid of that program altogether. They want it to be gone. But when we get to heaven, I'm not even going to read that. When we get to heaven, God says that every tribe, every nation, every land, that's what's going to be there. We need to practice as much as we can while we're down here. Making America great again is a phrase coined first by Ronald Reagan. Heritage Foundation, 1973, they were created. Ronald Reagan is elected in 1980. These are rich white men that have their own agenda, and they were very instrumental in Ronald Reagan becoming president. Now, I don't know who first came up with that slogan, but the purpose of it is supremacy. Picture top right. That is Ronald Reagan in Philadelphia, Mississippi. That may not ring a bell for anybody, but that's where Mississippi burning happened, where white and black civil rights workers were together that were killed, with the police right there participating. Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. Why did he go to Mississippi to announce his bid to become president of the United States? Well, if you listen to the Make America Great Again speech, it is very clear. He is telling white folks, I'm going to bless you, and the black people are going to get less. My jaw didn't drop when I read it, but I understand the patterns. That's all I want you to see. You don't have to remember what year, 1973. You don't have to remember all of that. Just understand that there's always this pattern. Wanting to make America great again. When was America great? I like the way Tim Wise said it. His book is over there. I'm not going to get up and go grab it. But I like the way author Tim Wise said it, and public speaker Tim Wise said. He said what it is the 50s. What happened in the 50s? It is the development that World War II is over. They're developing the middle class. Factories are growing and off the chain. People are getting jobs. They want a car in every driveway, meaning you've got a house, and black people have no rights. That's what MAGA means. Make America great again. Well, when do you consider it to have been great? In the 50s. Black people have no rights, and the middle class and white people are beginning to prosper. Oh, my time is getting short. That's what Project 2025 is. Are you with me? I got to tackle one more thing. I don't know if I can do it in 7 minutes or not, but I'm going to give it a try. I might go over, but we'll see, because I want you to get this particular piece too. Let's talk about abortion. There's a good place to end. Let's talk about abortion, ending a pregnancy, removing the fetus. Different people are on different sides of this issue, right? Some want it to stay, some want it to go. But what I always want to know is what's really going on? What's behind the curtain? Where did this come from? What is it for? Margaret Sanger, who some call the mother of women's rights in the arena of contraception. But Margaret Sanger's purpose in creating Planned Parenthood had absolutely nothing to do with women having the right to abortion or wanting to save lives. People were getting going places and getting these illegal abortions and having anything to do with that. She wanted to destroy, to kill anybody that was undesirable. If you had a handicap, if you weren't white, if you were black, she wanted to get rid of you. I'm going to start in the middle because of time. Margaret Sanger, she joins the list of evil people in history. In promoting birth control, she advanced a controversial Negro project. She wrote in her autobiography, she wrote in her autobiography about speaking to the Klan and advocating for eugenics. That's same thing Hitler was doing. Purity of blood. Thinking one group is better than another, as if God would do that. Eugenics approach to breeding for the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization. And in order to do that, she wanted to exterminate black babies. That's a population control thing. In 1939, a letter to Dr. C.J. Gamble, Sanger urged him to get over his reluctance to hire a full-time Negro physician, as the colored Negroes can get closer to their own members and are more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorant superstitions and doubts. What she wanted him to do, what she wanted Gamble to do, was hire a black doctor to kill these babies. Because if they come in and see somebody familiar, they'd be okay with that. I just have to flash this up. I'm almost out of time. 79% of abortion clinics are within walking distance of minority neighborhoods. 60% are inside. All right. I'm gonna, let me see, where is my stop here? Okay. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna stop sooner than I laid out because of time. I'll do a recap of this to make sure. The Republicans in 1973 must have been some kind of year. They were the ones that approved Roe v. Wade. Huh? Yeah, they passed it. 7-2 voted by a court within a 7-3 Republican majority. 5 of the 6 Republican appointees voted to legalize abortion. That's where it came from, okay? You got to get this. I got this on another video. It's called Abortion because I deal with the whole issue. There have been majority Republicans appointed to the appointed justices of the Supreme Court for 49 of the last 50 years, and yet abortion is still legal. I wrote this a few years ago. So that number went 50, 51, or 52, 50, something like that. Or you get me. So in other words, they were in the majority all these years. They've been campaigning and talking about, raising funds, and a lot of people vote as a, one issue kind of thing. They're voting because they want, to get rid of Roe v. Wade. And they could have done it anytime they wanted to, but they were getting campaign funds. They were getting elected, presenting this false crusade. When any time they would have brought it to the Supreme Court, it could have been gone. But when this report came out, let me jump ahead of myself. I'll pick some of this other stuff up later because I'm going to finish right here. This report comes out, and the report says There was a second report, but I'll catch the rest of this later. It said that by 2045, white people would no longer be in the majority. I said then, abortion's gone. Roe v. Wade is gone. Why? Because we got to control the numbers. I got another situation I'll show you next Wednesday where it's population control. They need these white ladies to have their babies and stop using abortion as birth control. They need them to have their children. So they said, so now we got to get rid of it. It's got to go. We need it to go. We've been using it as campaign slogans, all that kind. We've been making money for years, getting elected on that one issue for years. But we got to get rid of it now because we're going to lose power. We're going to lose supremacy. There's more just right here, but I just don't have time. I want you to chew on that. I want you to go and look it up yourself and look at whether or not the Supreme Court had a majority and for how long. Look at the times that Republicans or Democrats in the House and in the Senate had a majority. And it was never even proposed. Why? Because they had you believing that it was this uphill Christian crusade. Not true. Hate to cut it off right here, but I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson. There is at the time of this recording, there is a holiday that is coming. And so there will be nothing on Monday. So I will pick this up and hopefully finish it next week. But set your device so that you have a reminder that we're going to be, carrying on with this topic. 2025, Project 2025 is nothing to play around with. This is serious business. It's trying to take us back. It's trying to make everything much worse than it is. And, yeah. But anyway, love you, beloved. Thanks for watching.